Call the meeting to order. Welcome. We'll start out as we usually do, introductions. I'm Byron Chapman, Mayor of the City of Middletown, and the chair today. All right.
Tom Hall, KYTC District 5 Planning.
Tanya Higdon, KYTC Central Office Planning.
Matt Bullock, KYTC District 5.
John Callahan with Louisville Metro Government.
Matt Meunier, City of Jeffersontown.
Ernie Bowling, City of St. Matthews.
Bill Darren, Mayor, City of Jeffersontown.
Aida Gopi, Dodge.
Justin Tackett, Floyd County.
Brittany Montgomery, Town, Clarksville.
Jim Udi, NDOT. Larry Cheney, Kipta.
Ashley Davidson, Kipta.
Zach Herzog, Kipta.
David Burton, Kipta.
Mary Lou Hopper with Kipton.
Nick Vale, Kipta.
Andy Rush, Kipton.
Sarah Berry, Kipta.
Dan Eisen, Judge, Shelby County.
Mark Lord, Congressman Guthrie's office.
Steve Miller, Congressman Guthrie's office.
Sean Dax, WSP, Parsons Victor Hawk.
Megan Bennett, AECOM.
Fred Johnson, HUB.
Steve McDevitt, Burgess Knife.
Bobby Campbell, Jacob Tinsley.
Vince Robinson, Trout.
Judy Higgerson, KYTC District 5 Planning.
Okay, welcome. Once of all, welcome everyone here. Let's get moving on. Item number 2 is the January 26th meeting minutes. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item number 3, this is the only time that the public would be able to comment to this group. You're welcome to comment. Anyone wish to comment? Hearing no one, we'll move to number 4, the public meeting report.
On January 12th, we went to the Middletown Chamber of Commerce meeting where Jeff O'Brien presented information about the Louisville Metro Comprehensive Plan. On January 19th through 20th, we were at the Kentuckians for Better Transportation Conference in Lexington. On January 25th, we attended the Regional Mobility Council meeting. February 14th, there was a webinar on how to make engagement count with public participation toolkits. And on February 16th, I was at the Title VI workshop here at KIPTA.
Any questions of any of those meetings? Thank you for the meetings. Item number 5, the Transportation Alternatives Program, the TAP. Nick's going to present this. Nick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir.
You mixed up.
All right, we're waiting for the TV to load up a little bit, but I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon to all y'all. The purpose of my presentation today is to provide an update on the Transportation Alternatives Set-Aside Program. This is a Federal Highway Administration funding program that's been revised multiple times. This new version of the long-standing bicycle and pedestrian program allows NPOs such as ours the flexibility to shift funds to other types of programs and also restrict eligibility to specific program categories or project categories. Today I'll be asking you all to weigh in on 2 different potential program changes and also approve the updated application materials, changes to the selection process and scoring criteria. So before I get into the details of the program changes, first I'll provide a little bit of information on the program, look at the funds that are available, the proposed schedule, selection process, the updated materials, and finally the 2 program changes you guys may choose to make. This program, the original program was established back in 1991 under the Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act. It's changed many times over the years. Under MAP 21, we all knew it as the Transportation Alternatives Program. With the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, or FAST Act, they changed it again. It's now called the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program because it's now part of the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program. I know it's a lot of information, but the key here is that they made 2 changes that NPOs can choose to make if they so choose. So NPOs could choose to set aside up to 50% of the sub-allocated funds, the annual sub-allocated funds, and shift those to more traditional surface transportation type projects. NPOs could also have choose to restrict the eligibility categories under this program. And I'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute. In terms of the funding that is available through this program, the KIPTA region is projected to receive approximately $230,000 for the state of Indiana's LPAs for 2019 and 2020. In Kentucky, the amount we're estimated to be allocated is $1.1 million in 18, 19, and 2020. You'll notice that we don't have any funds there for Indiana in 2018. Those funds were awarded through our last TAP call for projects last year. And also keep in mind that because of state rules, Indiana's allocated funds must be spent in the year in which they were apportioned or allocated, whereas Kentucky can allow for a carryover. The proposed schedule for the upcoming notice of funding availability is shown here on the slide. On March 3rd, we're proposing to issue the notice and open the call up. Friday, April 14th will be the date in which applications are due. The TTC working group recommendations will be due a couple weeks after that on May 1st, and then we'll take those recommendations to the TTCC on May 10th. Following that, we'll bring it to TPC, and then of course we'll have to coordinate the TIP process. And the earliest any project could start would be the beginning of fall 2017. However, those projects would have to be in the TIP already and be processed with an administrative modification. So there may be just a few projects eligible to start early. In terms of the selection process, applications will still be evaluated by a 5-member working group comprised of 1 representative from NDOT, KYTC, KIPTA, and TARC, as well as 1 TTCC voting member, chosen at random. The project can still earn up to 100 points based on 14 different scoring criteria. All of this was made available on our website and provided to you guys through your packets. At the end of this presentation, I'll be asking for your approval of the selection process and the scoring criteria that was recommended by TTCC. There are also updated materials for the NOFA that's coming up. Staff reorganized the application a bit. We created an application guide. There's an updated application form that's fillable PDF. And there are 2 separate budget worksheets that, one for Indiana LPAs and one for Kentucky LPAs. And again, at the end of the presentation, I'll be asking you to approve the application materials. And we also updated any references to make sure it was compliant with the new FAST Act. The policy changes. Like I said, with the FAST Act, the TPC has the opportunity to make 2 big changes if it so wishes. I want to be clear that the staff is not advocating or recommending either of these potential changes, but we do want to bring it to your attention. And so the first one is essentially, if you guys so choose, we could set aside up to 50% of this program's funds to be used for more traditional surface transportation projects. And TTCC did not recommend making a change there. Likewise with the second one, NPOs, we could choose to restrict the types of project categories that are eligible. Again, TTCC did not recommend a change there either. So moving on to the requested actions, we've got several, kind of a process to this. I've reorganized it since TTCC, so hopefully it goes a little smoother. First, I'm going to ask you all if there's a desire to take action on either of the 2 optional actions there. So first, is there any desire to transfer a percentage of this program's funds to the more traditional surface transportation program?
Are you going to need that in the form of a motion? Or
Yes, if there is a desire, then you'd have to specify a specific percentage that would be set aside.
Otherwise it stands.
All right, hearing none. The second optional action that you all could choose to take today would be to restrict the types of project categories that are eligible. These eligible categories were provided in the materials I provided for you all. There are things like mitigation of environmental factors, construction of scenic overlooks and things like that that we could choose to restrict, but if you all do not wish to do that, we'll simply move on to the required actions. Any interest in restricting project categories?
Say no more.
All right. At this time, I'm requesting your approval to the proposed changes to the selection process and the scoring criteria.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Approved.
Second. Okay, and what are we voting for?
To
make changes.
approve the so changes to the selection process and the scoring criteria.
But we don't know what that is at this point.
It was in the packet.
Well, in the packet,
Yeah.
but I mean, no literature, okay. Any questions, and I guess would be appropriate at this point. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
All right. And the final motion would be to approve the updated application materials as they were presented in the TPC packet.
Looking for a motion again?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, additional discussion? Everyone's familiar with your voting, right? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
All right. Thank you all. That concludes my presentation.
Quick. Okay. Item number 6, KIPTA online resource. David?
Thanks. Okay. A couple of you are probably saying, haven't we seen this before? And the answer would be yes. You have seen this a couple of times, but there's a reason why we want to make sure that you are aware of this process and this tool. We are gearing up for project development for the MTP update. And in August, I think it was, the TPC approved a new project management process for the TIP. Both of these processes will have some interaction, actually a great deal of interaction, with this KIPTA Online Resource Center that Zach's going to go over with you in just a moment. Basically, what we've done is we've taken a lot of the work that's been completed or is underway up to this point, and we've tried to make it available for you guys and other project sponsors as a tool, so that we can better evaluate the projects and programs that are being proposed for both the MTP and the TIP. As most of you know, some of the issues that we've had to deal with up to this point were projects that compared data that was like looking at apples and oranges instead of apples and apples. There was some data that was not available for one project that might be available for another project. We're trying to take care of those two situations where everyone has the data available to them. And when they look at the data, we're doing apples to apples instead of apples to orange. That way we think that the TTCC, the TPC can do a better job of looking at the projects and trying to be more informed in deciding how the funds that are available to this region are allocated. So what like I said, what we've done is we've compiled all of this information. This is the starting point. We're going to be adding to this information that Zach's going to show you in just a second. But the reason we're showing it to you so often is because we want you to go to this site. It's on our KIPTA.org webpage, and look at it. And if you see things that you think might improve it, let us know. Let me know, or Zach, or Larry know. And we'll make sure to see what we can do in order to make it better suit your needs and our needs as a region. So Zach's going to walk you through it. And if you have any questions, ask away. And then probably next week we're going to send out this link to all the project sponsors so that everyone is aware of where this is located. And hopefully they can take full advantage of it as we go forward from this point. Go ahead, Zach.
Thanks, David. Afternoon, everyone. This can be located just on our homepage, KIPTA.org, and if you go down to the Transportation Division, it is this link right here, and you just click on it, and it should take you straight to the application, and it starts on the crash analysis data, which if anyone saw this at the TCC meeting, this disclaimer popped up on every tab. We've changed that. So it just pops up as soon as you click on this first one, and then you can browse away without it. The tabs for each data map are located here at the top, and you can just, if you want to search to a different map with different information like level of service, you just click on the tab that you would wish to browse to. Some of the information we've made available, disclaimer, does come up on crash analysis every time. Is crash data on the crash data tab. It's very user friendly, like Google Maps or any app on your phone. You just browse around. You can zoom in and out. You can change imagery from just the road layer to actual imagery layer with labels. And this is all being pulled from Esri ArcGIS Cloud. So when it's updated, it'll be updated for you when they update it. If you click on any of the features, the points or lines, we've chosen different information based on what the application may have you or what it may require from you. And you just click on any of the lines. If you just left click, the information pops up for that individual feature. We provide a crash analysis data.
Yeah, let me jump in here. This is the data that Andy has been presenting to you over the past several months on the crash analysis that we've been using. So this is an example of how we've taken the data that we've compiled for the MTP and are trying to make it available in a very user-friendly format. This is the type of data that we're going to be updating on a regular basis. So right now, this is the latest information we have that's available on the site, and this is the information that we'll be using as we go forward with the MTP update. So this is just an example of how we're able to pull all that data together and tell a sensible, easy to understand story with that data, so that you can then apply this information to your project development from this point forward.
The next tab would be a level of service data. This is 2016 data that we have just compiled and released. And it's color-coded by E and F, level of service, and then the top 10%, which are the worst areas, are the dark red. And again, you have a pop-up window with attributes in there that go along corresponding to each feature. Environmental justice, Title VI area, it's just the boundary. If you wanted a project to fall within this boundary, this is where you could find it, and you could zoom in and out to see exactly where those boundaries are. We also included the current TARC transit route data. This is the latest, these are the latest routes that we've been given. And again, running a little slow, we have the transit stops are the little black dots. If you zoom in closer, you can see them. And then the routes are all color-coded by local, express, and circular. And also, there's an About tab on every one of these tabs. There's an About link that kind of explains what the information being presented to you is, and breaks it down more. And on the TARC page, we also have a link set up that takes you directly to the TARC website, where you can browse further and get further information. We've included freight network data, which is just basically freight networks that run through our area. Very simple data on the attribute table. Function classified roads, which are broken down into the newest, I'm new to this, so it's broken down in the newest form of classifications, I guess, and they are color coordinated. Traffic volume data is just traffic counts, and it is like 10,000 points. If it pulls up here, there you go. And if you zoom in, you can see more exact where they are, and it just gives the route, the year it was collected, the count, and who did the count. And then this year, KIPTA staff, GIS, and transportation have gone out and collected a lot of the bike ped routes and corridors in the region. We drove in a car equipped with, what was it called, Sarah?
The thing?
Yeah.
The DMI?
The DMI. And we used it driving down the roads, collecting by mile point, and then we put that data into, we had a guy compile it all and to build this spatial database. And so since we use the car driving down the road, some of the sidewalks and other data don't fall exactly in line with imagery, but it gives you a really good idea where all the bike ped corridors are currently. I guess the last feature I'll show you is the search address. So I'm a big biker myself, and if I wanted to know where some might be around here, I'll just type in our address here at Kipta. It should take me right there. And I can browse and see where crosswalks are, bike lanes, so whatnot. So anyway, that's a brief overview. Yes?
Could you zoom back in on crash analysis data and go to Oldham County, please? Reason I'm asking you to go there is, where's I-71 at?
Right here.
Okay, what we're trying to do is through justification numbers and data. There's I think last year was 250 accident-related incidents on I-71 from Gene Snyder through Oldham County last year, crash-related.
Okay.
How come for our maybe justification as we're trying to work on with the federal folks to widen the road and do all these kind of things that wouldn't maybe indicate how many crash data you pinpoint on that interstate?
Part of this analysis that we're, oh, I'm sorry, Andy, go ahead.
One thing I'll say is, if I'm not mistaken, we do not have the interstate the top 20 segments of interstates shown on here. It's just the service streets, arterials, and collectors.
But should we maybe? In the region, or, you know?
Yeah, we have that information. I can provide that to you, and that's on our website. We certainly can. Yeah, we can provide that to you. We can show you where I-71 ranked, even, relative to the other segments of portions of I-71 and also I-71 as compared to Gene Snyder or Waterston, for instance. Even.
So you all get that uploaded from like the Oldham County Police, Oldham County Sheriffs, when they have an accident out on 71, that will come to you all?
Well, it goes to a statewide database that the Kentucky State Police maintains.
Okay.
And then that data is publicly available via Kentucky State Police online database.
Would you want to see the interstates on this?
Well, I mean, if it means anything to any of us in this region. Huh?
On a separate?
Me too. That was one thing I was gonna mention.
Should we do that?
And the interstates to this map, rather than just local streets.
Or we could have a separate map with the interstates, if that would be.
Might be better.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the same thing would be true about the level of service data.
Yes.
I think we've only shown, thinking in the project development sense for most LPAs, there's probably not going to, only a couple in the room are probably going to be doing interstate projects perhaps. But so we don't show the level of service data on the interstates. Of course, there are congested interstates in our region that would warrant level of service D or worse. So,
on your traffic volume, are you also tracking freight? How much freight is coming up and down the interstates?
We do not do that.
No, but do they?
The cabinet and NDOT do.
I'm not sure if that.
it's not a part of our. We have not put the truck percentages on the individual data points. That's available for many of the counts, but not all of the counts. I'd say it's true for most of NDOT and KYTC's counts. That is there a truck percentage that goes along with it? I think that's true, but it certainly wouldn't be true for all the counts, because I think there literally are like 4,000 counts here on here. So if I had to speculate, I'd say a quarter of them have truck percentages or something like that. Would be my guess. But we can look at it. If there's one in particular, we can look at it real quick. And if there's a bunch, we can consider it.
I was just thinking why we have Mitch McConnell up there where he is and Elaine Chow where she is. All of us should be doing all we can to document everything in our federal highway system to try to make sure we're getting over and above the needed dollars in this region to improve our interstates.
So the cabinet and NDOT are both doing that, but we can certainly provide that information to all of you as well, at least on the congestion and the crashes. The freight percentage would be difficult to show because there's so many different varieties.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, your bike and ped, how often is it updated? Well, this year was a baseline because we just did the entire community. What we're gonna have to do from this point is to find out some way where the people who actually build new facilities provide us that information.
If it's coming through a grant program, would you automatically update it?
Not necessarily. If we catch it, if we see it,
Or if we asked you to add it, you can.
if someone will tell us, we'll certainly add it.
Does it tell whether it's share the road or separate path or?
It should, yeah, the bike lanes are all on shared roads, and so are the sharrows. If it's a standalone, it would be a multi-use path, like this one here. And obviously, we don't have any of the Louisville loop and through the parklands and stuff like that in here.
We can show the one through here, through Bluegrass.
Yeah, I think it's right
One on
here.
one side and the one on the other.
Bluegrass.
Right here.
Remember, we collected the data on functionally classified roadways, so not all of the sidewalks are gonna be included in this.
Well, not sidewalks, bike path, but bike and ped or shared path.
As long as it was on or near a functional classification roadway, then we could map it. But if it's out in a park, we did not go out and take because we were just in our vehicle. And so I think we have to do something separate to go back and map the park.
Yeah, we get a little excited if you're driving through the park.
So like I said earlier, this is the first cut at this. We're gonna be adding some information here in the next couple of months. Sarah's working on a red flag inventory that we're gonna be adding to this. We have clustering and focus areas that we're developing as part of the update to the MTP. These will also be added to this. So it is an ongoing process. It's a very dynamic process, and if you see things like Judge Black and others have wanted to see added to this, we can look at that and see how we can make that possible. If you have anything you want added to it, please let us know, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, appreciate it. Probably the best thing we could do is use it and then get familiar with it and feedback to you.
Yeah, we'll be sending out the link here pretty soon.
Thanks so much. Well, when will the link come out, you know?
Sometime next week.
Next week, okay, good deal.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. All right, good deal. Thank you so much.
And today you can find it on the website.
Yeah. Item number 7, shift overview. Mr. Larry Cheney and Tom for this.
And Tom or Matt or Tanya or whoever wants to chime in.
Who's first up?
The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet puts together a 6-year highway plan every 2 years. And there have been many different ways to compile that 6-year highway plan through the years. This time they've chosen a brand new way to choose projects or to propose projects for the plan. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it or not. You're probably not, but there's Judge Heisen, I think, may be the only one in the room that's heard of the unscheduled needs list. John Callahan worked with the cabinet, so he remembers. The unscheduled needs list, which is now called the fifth database, was the universe of projects that basically was a wish list out beyond the 6-year highway plan. And it was maintained for years and years and years. There's probably 50 years worth of projects in that unscheduled needs list today, maybe more. What the Transportation Cabinet is doing is taking that universe of projects and considering all of those in this next 6-year plan and ranking them through a process that they've been working on for several years now. They've given the MPOs and the area development districts the opportunity to choose projects for what they're calling sponsorship. This doesn't mean you're paying the match. This means that we're recommending that the project be considered. So the Transportation Cabinet gets so many projects to sponsor. We as an MPO get so many projects to sponsor. That process has already occurred with the Cabinet. There's that universal projects that was considered. The Cabinet has chosen a certain number of projects to sponsor. So now the opportunity comes to us to choose projects in Kentucky now. That process looks at that unscheduled needs list, that universal projects, and we get to choose from that. Well, from our perspective, from staff perspective, and I hope from yours as well, the only projects that we really should consider are the ones that are already in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We don't have time between now and when these projects have to be sponsored to amend the transportation plan. So we've got these projects in the MTP that we as a body have approved as viable projects. So going forward with this, what's going to happen is we're going to choose projects, they've chosen projects, all of those go into this big black box up in Frankfurt and come out with numbers. They're going to be scored according to all these criteria. And then those projects will be ranked. Well, with that associated number comes that ranking, but the district and the MPO and the Area Development District are going to have the opportunity to add points to these projects to maybe change their hierarchy a little bit. And then that group of projects goes to central office, and that's folded into, based on the money that's available, the new 6-year highway plan. What I guess I'm asking you today to consider is how we get from that universe of projects to our list of 51 projects. We get to choose 51 projects. If we choose them from the MTP, that choice is pretty simple, relatively simple anyway. There are only, 300 projects in the MTP? So of those 300 or so projects, we have to choose some. The first recommendation that we have is that any project that has already started be finished. In this process, if a project has not received funding out beyond this summer, it's up for grabs. It can be reconsidered, reordered, whatever in this process. So our recommendation is that, first of all, anything that's already gotten started should be finished. And we take those off the top, those would be our first recommendations. Then beyond that, if we sort through the MTP and we look at the things that we've done in the last few years, putting together all of this criteria that would give us the focus areas and the areas of concern and all the things that we've built on our goals and objectives and performance measures, and hold those remaining projects up to that mirror and then choose from there. And we believe that that will get us to that 51 projects pretty quickly if we adopt that process. So I'm asking today for discussion, recommendation. If that is the recommendation of this group, that we go forward with that type of a process, then we come back to you in March with TTCC recommendations to approve a list of projects that we take to that group.
What do you mean by start?
Pardon?
When is a project declared started? When it's in the thought process, when they fix an engineer?
When it has money obligated, whether it's already started design, you're buying right of way. Even a project right now that is in the right of way phase could be in jeopardy because of the funding availability. So again, we recommend that those projects keep moving, that they keep being funded off the top before we start digging deeper.
Is there projects that have been designed for many years?
If there's a project that's been designed for many years and it's
in the design process for many years,
that is, it depends on how serious the project sponsor might be. If they're waiting for funding, that's something different than just waiting.
So if you're saying a project's already funded all the way, rather than just be the design project, it would be one of the first picks?
We'll bring those for your consideration, and they don't have to be chosen. No. And these projects don't have to be in order when they leave us in March. It just has to be a list of projects that we would like to be considered for funding. None of them may make it. The reality is there's not a lot of money available. If you continue funding the big projects, Judge Ison's here, 53 is a big one, that is, we're buying right of way and it really needs to be completed. If that occurs, there may not be a lot of money left for these other projects. We may not have any new projects chosen, we don't know. But we do have the opportunity to propose consideration for a group of projects.
Does the state have a different criteria that they're considering implementing based on building a road this day and time than what they used to be? Is that sort of where it's come from the cabinet?
Yeah, if you, any of you want to add
I'm not
anything
sure
at
I
all?
understood the question.
Well, used to be political, mostly political, where you built the road and who got it. My question is now, is it going, trying to take the politics somewhat away from it and rate it on creation of jobs? How long has it been needed? Job producing income. Will this road meet that criteria? And my question is the administration looking to say, hey, we just can't throw all stuff out there on the board. We got to have some justification why in the world is it needed?
Yeah, I could probably answer that. The governor has asked the transportation cabinet this time around in preparing a highway plan for Kentucky, has asked us to come up with a fiscally constrained plan that most meets the data needs. Basically, it's a best bang for a buck. And yeah, what you said was economic development is a consideration, but more importantly, safety and congestion. But all those are all rolled into will be rolled into the analysis for which project gets rated where. But our role here is to look at projects that are already in the highway plan that we were already working on, and plus look at wish list type projects, and try and bring forth a list of those projects that makes the most sense for our area, our region. In your case, the KIPTA MPO. For our case, District 5, KYTC, all 8 counties. All that's going to come together, and the intent or the goal is that the Transportation Cabinet will provide a recommended highway plan to the legislature about this time next year that will be fiscally constrained, recognizing that right now 9 out of 10 state-funded projects in there can't be paid for because there's no money for them. So the intent is to hand over this much thinner highway plan that best meet all the projects in there, best meet the needs, and is fiscally constrained. In other words, if a project's in there, we got the money to pay for it, we will build it. That's the intent. Now, what the legislature does in the approval process and their negotiations with the governor after that are still a little up in the air. But our mission is prescribed by the governor is to provide a recommended highway plan that is fiscally constrained with really, really good projects. Whether they're projects we're already working on or projects that are out there that are wish list jobs that really make good sense.
Tom, do you have projects that have, thank you personally, but that have already been started on somewhat in the design stage where there's projects that haven't been that should take precedent over?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, many of them, and actually the Highway District Office has had an opportunity to look at this list of projects already. And yesterday we collected a universe of 70 projects that we think are the most appropriate, and they're spread through all out of our 8 counties. And they're projects, a lot of them are ones that we've already been working on. We're already buying property, we've got commitments, we're moving utilities, or we're imminently getting ready to construct it. So we had to support those projects. And then there's some other projects that are maybe brand new that we thought were pretty good too. So there's a good list, and our intention by moving quickly is to show the MPOs and the ads that, hey, the Transportation Cabinet's selected a list of projects, but then you guys get to pick 50 projects as well from the remaining projects to try and move forward in this process. Now, that'll give us a list of 120 JIP projects. They're going to run through some scoring machine, and where they rate in the score is, where they rate. And the intent of that process is that with a limited amount of money, we'll start at the top of the list and we'll work our way down. I think that's the intent.
And not to back it up, but if we're digging dirt, if we're getting right away and all that, we're beyond the thought process, the design process? Do we have some that are in the design process that haven't gotten out of design, that something else may be more pressing that we want to put ahead of it?
There could be, yeah, and I think the data scoring process will tell us that. But we actually have projects where we were buying property and stopped buying property. The funding levels at the state level are dire right now, very, very, very low, and forecast to be very low for the future. So this isn't really a call for new projects, more like we don't have very much money in the wallet. What's the best bang for the little amount of money we have in our wallet, kind of thing. It's more of a philosophical approach. So you know, it's a like Larry said, we're really probably focusing more on what we're already working on, and not bringing in. It's not a call for new projects by any means. It's a call for picking the best existing projects and, you know, which ones are the most sensible to move forward.
Generally, the projects that are SLO funded are not under consideration in this process. Bridge replacement projects are not considered, and maintenance projects are not considered in this process. They go under a different ranking system, and of course we have control of our own money. But there are a couple of projects that the Transportation Cabinet think are important enough that are funded with SLO dollars in the future that they think are important enough to include on their list. So this kind of goes to what I've talked about in the past is ideally we would have the same list that the Transportation Cabinet has that the legislature gets. And everybody agrees that this group of projects is the most important. So when we run this through the scoring process, a project that we choose at the MPO level could very well score higher than most of their projects. So there'll be a mix of that when it goes forward from here. And like I said, we have the opportunity to change that mix with the points that we get to add later. Although we don't know how much they are or what they mean when we add them to anything yet. But we will.
Just,
John,
you just answered some of my questions, but just to make sure I'm clear. If a project is in the 6-year highway plan and the district doesn't sponsor it, the MPO doesn't sponsor it, the AD doesn't sponsor it, then it won't be scored and in theory wouldn't appear in the next plan. It would, in theory, drop out.
Right.
Okay. And the other funding sources, you addressed that. So if it's a bridge replacement, those will be a separate process, and SLO likewise. And also, just to make sure I'm clear, the list of 70 or so projects that the district has put forward, the idea would be the MPO list would the MPO would see that list first, and there wouldn't be a duplication.
Right.
But, the MPO list would be above and beyond those 70.
Correct.
Okay.
I think there's a request here, but the request is to let the staff prioritize these lists and then bring it to the.
That would be probably the most efficient way to do this is to take the things that are already in place and bring it back to the committee in March for consideration.
You're talking about the TTTC committee, right?
The TTCC will get the list first and make whatever recommendations from there.
Then we will.
But we're kind of proposing that staff put the list together based on the existing information that we already have, taking the cabinet projects out of that list and providing the short list.
Is that how it's done presently? The staff puts a list together and then hands it to
This has never been done before. This is a new process.
This would be scored. You have a scoring sheet that would be.
We won't have scores
We won't have
yet.
scoring sheet.
No.
How will you determine?
The way that we have discussed coming up with that list is, like I said, taking the MTP projects that are not on the cabinet's list and looking at them in regard to all of the things that we've put together with data and our goals and objectives, looking at focus areas first, which are the layering of some of these issues that we have, areas of concern, and anything that might be freight related, for instance, and going down through that hierarchy of projects and putting that list together from those things, and then bringing that to the TTCC for consideration.
Could we ask that, I would like for the staff to take a look at the projects that currently are programmed for SLO dollars. There's a few of those that are very large. And as you mentioned, it might be worth sponsoring those for scoring and consideration for a different funding source other than.
We certainly have, and the cabinet's already picked up 2 of those in their list. So it's something, and what we talked about yesterday, from my perspective, it's more important that we get a project done regardless of where the funding comes from. You know, if important to the region, then whatever funding source is available should be applied to that project. So if the cabinet feels strongly enough about that, like English Station Road, they're taking the road over. So it's a logical candidate to put in that mix for possibly different funding. So we're open to that, certainly.
So would staff prioritize the 300 to bring it to TTCC, or would they pick the 50?
We would pull 50 or 60 for consideration and then let the TTCC take it down to the appropriate number.
But would they know of any other projects to say, yes, I'd rather have this one in than the other?
That's the other thing. We could put together a working group to consider all the projects and take the list down, or you could give us permission to sift through them and come up with a short list. It's your pleasure.
There's kind of a time constraint on this, isn't there?
We have to have it by the end of March.
For the next meeting.
We haven't been given a lot of time to do this.
Is it something we'll be doing every year?
If it works, we'll be doing it every 2 years.
Every 2 years, okay.
But the good thing about it is we'll have that UNL, that PIF database, in a situation where it's more correct than it is today. It hasn't received the attention through the years that it probably should have because it's not been used for this before. So that will be cleaned up. We'll have our MTP matching up with that. So in the future, this process will be a lot simpler than it is this time.
It seems like to me this board has a decision to either create a working group to get this completed by the end of March, or instruct the staff to get it done by the end of March.
We need to have some list to take to the TTCC, their March meeting.
Oh, okay, let's just assume or say that the staff does it. Will this list come out early? How much earlier to where we can all take a look at it?
We'll certainly have it a week in advance of the meeting.
Your wishes. Anybody want to serve on the working group? I guess. But we are in a time frame here.
We are.
Obviously. So it would be the choice of what, 4, 5, 6 people for a working group to get this accomplished by March, or the staff doing it. That's where we're at. Your wishes.
I think staff can do it, and after they prioritize, we can always ask for explanation or for additional information if I think this is the most efficient way.
When we say prioritize, it's taking 50 of projects out of the
50,
300.
60, whatever your proposal is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I make a
Okay.
motion.
Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Just to be, and Larry, you said that we would, week before TTCC, get the proposed list?
If not sooner.
Okay. And just to be clear then if we really felt like there was something that was missed, somebody at TTCC could say, hey, would you consider adding this project?
Honestly, I would be very surprised if we circulated the cabinet's list, if you would think there was anything to be missed, because projects that we chose the other day are all pretty important projects. And the ones that are important to this group, I think, most important to this group, are already in the SLO process. Okay. So I don't think this is going to be as difficult as it might sound.
But if there was a project, we do have the means to say, hey, we don't like this, we want to include this.
Certainly. If it's in the MTP.
Well, I would ask if staff comes out with the recommendation of 50, and if there's any other changes that we know what the original was and what the change was when it comes to here. So there is a decision process.
Sure.
Either that or we should, no need for TPC meeting. So But yeah, if you're changing from your original, what IDA is recommending, I think it should come to hear what the changes were.
That's our plan, to take it to both groups.
Yeah, but we'd like to know what you started with, and what, not the 300, but what the 50 was, and then what the new 50 is if it's a change.
That's doable?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other comments before we call for a vote? All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The quicker you can get that report to us, the better off we're going to be. Okay, item number 8, Environmental Justice, Title 6 Workshop. Lori, good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just in time. Okay. Have some handouts for you. I'm not doing any death by PowerPoint today. So we'll let you flip through the materials. Some of you will be familiar with this. In fact, there's several of you here in the room that were able to attend the training. And for the rest of you, this is a taste of what you missed. Obviously, I'm not giving out any legal advice today. I'll take that from our instructor. He said the same thing. And also, you can. There are people who have a lot more experience with Title VI as well as ADA than I have had, and those are the folks that really should be giving you the training. So with that, in your handout, if just about everybody has one now.
Everyone has a handout. Got extra ones if you need.
We should have extras. And if not, you can, if anybody's missing one, you can give me your name afterwards and I'd be happy to supply it to you. We're also looking at, we'll be putting these materials out on our website as well. So these will be available to you in several formats. Our presenter last Thursday for our Title VI Elements of Non-Discrimination in Planning and Implementation for Subrecipients. Pretty much everybody in this room is a subrecipient, okay? NDOT and KYTC as to the requirements that they have of subrecipients, there's some differences here and there. Let me give just one example. NDOT currently requires a pre-award survey to be completed by subrecipients. KYTC is not necessarily doing that yet. I'm not going to go over Ken's presentation, but if you'll flip back, the numbered pages 1 through 15, they're double-sided. Those are Ken's presentation. And he talks in there about having a Title VI plan, also implementing the plan, as well as doing the follow-up of having goals and a goals report and progress report. After you get to that, we have the other handouts that Ken gave us. This is, if you haven't figured it out yet, this is more about providing you with the tools today. You'll notice there's a page that's entitled Program Assessment Tool. That is essentially something that Federal Highway uses to report on the various agencies, how they're doing with Title VI, something kind of internal. But Ken provided it to us, so it's actually something that you can go through and use to look at your own process and your own plan if you have one already, or if you don't have one. In order to come up with one, you can use that. There's also a page in here entitled NDOT's Title VI Non-Discrimination Notice and Policy. In all of your Title VI plans, there is supposed to be a non-discrimination notice and policy, and it needs to be signed by your highest official within your agency. So in this case, you'll notice on the back of that page, it would have been signed by Brandy Hendrickson, former NDOT commissioner at the time. Then there's also the assurances of non-discrimination. You very well have seen these before. These are some standard US DOT assurances of non-discrimination. For the most part, those assurances need to go in your contracts. They need to go into contracting, and They need to go in pretty much verbatim. Now, the parts where it says Indiana DOT in here, obviously you put in, substitute your own information in that case, but the rest of it would be pretty much verbatim. Again, signed by your highest official. You also have some appendices that go along with that. Appendices A through E. Ken gave us A through D, and I added in E that I had from some previous training. A needs to be in all of the contracts. B, C, and D have to do with when you are transferring property or leases or anything having to, permitting. And then E also goes in all contracts. After the appendices, there's an example of a sample complaint log. Everybody should have one at their ready disposal. Hopefully you won't get any complaints, but you have to be ready and have a process in place to dispense with your complaints should you get them. You have to have a process, you have to have somebody named Title VI coordinator that's going to deal with those. After that, there is another one of the Federal Highways checklists. Again, you can use this as well for a local self-assessment checklist of things that should be in your Title VI programs and plans. So use this tool wisely. And then at the very end, the last 2 pages, these were borrowed from the Census Bureau. These are what are called the I Speak cards, and they come in very handy for anyone who is your, I don't know, someone on the front desk or someone who's doing your public outreach or someone who's at a desk, that frontline personnel or at your public meetings, they can identify the language of someone who may come that does not speak English very well and maybe gather input or try to address whatever issue that person may have. If you need any other information, you can get that out on, you go out to INDOT's homepage, and they have a link to accessibility and non-discrimination. In fact, it's a brand new link, just been updated. I got that information yesterday. Our people with INDOT that deal with this are Aaron Hall and Kimberly Radcliffe. And as for KYTC, you can get to this information from the KYTC homepage out at transportation.ky.gov, and under business, you can go down to the civil rights and small business development. And our contact with KYTC is Ashley Woods. And just to give you a very quick update, yesterday, KIPTA staff attended the INDOT's Regional Title VI Training and ADA Day in Seymour yesterday at the district office. The day started off with some more Title VI compliance training, but this is, again, more Indiana-centric. Then there was a Seymour District meeting of the Indiana ADA and Title VI Coordinators Association. It's an affiliate of what used to be called IACT, the Indiana Association of Cities and Towns. That group has since changed its name. Dues are $25 a year, but they have a listserv, they provide training, and they're a great resource. So you can talk with others in Indiana, you can talk with others that have gone through the process of trying to put together ADA and Title VI transition programs. Following that was also INDOT's first regional ADA community forum. It was an open house setup where members of the public or other agencies could come in and speak with INDOT reps, any of the folks who dealt with communications, the LPAs, INDOT Transit. They could speak with any of those folks, discuss any ADA issues. Then there was the first Seymour District ADA Community Advisory Working Group, CAWG, COG. And that meeting, what they're trying to do, INDOT, Office of Civil Rights, is trying to set up within each of the 6 INDOT districts, they're trying to set up a committee, a working group, no more than 4 persons from each of those districts. And they're looking for citizens and people who are involved with the ADA community. Those folks will provide input to INDOT on their update of their ADA self-evaluation and transition plan. There was also a discussion of the projects in each of the Seymour District's counties that had elements that will address deficiencies in the ADA inventory that NDOT has. And save the date, another, especially for our Indiana folks, another training. The second annual Title VI Summit will be put on by NDOT. That will be May 25th and 26th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. It'll be in Indy at the Indiana Government Center South. It's free, just like it was last year, but there is no registration link yet. So there's a save the date. So if anyone here from our Indiana folks would like any of the Indiana materials that I would have picked up yesterday, let me know after the meeting, and I'll get your name and I'll provide those to you.
Any questions? I know you had a session here. How many attended the session?
We had 21, and taking out KIP to staff, it was pretty evenly split between, we had, even though Ken is with Federal Highway Indiana and spoke somewhat to some of the Indiana requirements, it was a good turnout. It was pretty evenly split.
Okay.
Kentucky and Indiana.
I understand we, the different agencies, have got to come up with this, have it a working plan. It's going to affect our funding, I think, or could. Is that correct? Correct statements?
The thought is that eventually you will have to demonstrate that you have those components that are to be in a plan in order to get federal funding. And actually, this is something that comes down from other federal agencies. Some of you may have seen it already from other federal agencies, not just DOT. But DOT is the one that's really kind of, putting feet to the fire.
Okay, good. Any questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Item number 10, Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee membership. Larry?
This one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mary Larry, didn't do that on purpose. Fiscal year 2015 Transportation Improvement Program. Mary Lou.
Thank you. I just want to inform you of Transportation Improvement Program administrative modifications. If you know by now that these are considered minor changes. There's a memo and a spreadsheet on the tables in front of you that I think it's a 6-page spreadsheet with just one project on the last page, I believe. But anyway, a lot of projects on here. These are considered minor changes to the TIP, and no action is required for these to be made in the TIP. There are projects on here that were considered needing immediate action. The Floyd County Bridge inspection is on there. Tanya, the Kentucky 480 that came in this morning is on there. There's a couple others. But anyway, if you had one that was an emergency, check on here. You might notice that there are quite a few SLO projects on here. These are projects that were already discussed in the process that I'm catching up on getting them in or changed in the TIP through administrative modification. Anything that couldn't be an administrative modification has to wait for the TIP update. But there were a few that made it last month through the modifications to the SLO process, but there's a lot that are on this one. So if you have any questions about anything on here, please just contact me and let me know, and we'll try to get answers to those.
Thank you so much. Any questions, Marilyn? Alrighty, now let's go on to number 10, TTCP. Larry?
Yes, sir. At the TTCC meeting, the group recommended approval of this selection. A working group several months ago put together a list of potential new members for the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee. The first look was to make it better reflect this group so that the agencies that are represented here actually have representation on that group as well. And also to look a little deeper at the communities that have grown since this was visited the last time, many, many years ago. Particularly the ones that were large enough to implement significant transportation projects. So this list that's in your packet First of all, we have the city of Linden, which is above a 10,000 population. You can see that on the list there, accompanied by the various reasons why we think they should be invited. City of Linden, the city of Mount Washington, Mayor Armstrong is here today. City of Shepherdsville, city of Shively is already a TPC member, but we think they need to be TTCC as well, as is the city of St. Matthews. Both of which have projects underway that are significant. We think that they should be at this table, or at the TTCC table. Floyd County Planning Department and Bullitt County Planning Department, those are both efforts to flesh that out across the region, because we already have Clark County, we already have Oldham County, and we already have Jefferson County represented. Jefferson County League of Cities represents a good portion of our population in Jefferson County, and they are not represented in every way by Louisville Metro. So we thought the Jefferson County League of Cities, who is already a TPC member, should be represented on TTCC as well. And the last one is the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Office of Transportation Delivery, and that's an effort to include another transit element in our group. We have TARP, which is the regional provider of transit, but the Office of Transportation Delivery funds a lot of the private companies that are in operation in our community, and they also provide us with our FTA planning funds. So that group was suggested as new voting members. The advisory members, we're looking at ways to include representation from regional freight. So the Indiana Motor Truck Association and the Kentucky Trucking Association are both of significant size that we think they could bring something to our table as well. Louisville Metro Department of Community Services is an overarching group that looks at housing and livability and things that really would help, I think. In looking at the advisory membership of our committee, I'd like to think of them as our conscience, where they bring those special things to the table that not all of us necessarily consider in every project. Louisville Metro Parks Department, they have a lot of projects underway right now. They are a big operation spending millions of dollars. We think they should be represented as well. Metro Safe is basically a regional emergency responder. They have a big broad reach across the region and have a lot that they could lend to the process. The Urban League obviously is something that we've talked about for many, many years. We'd like to give them the invitation as well to make sure that we try to reach every person in our community. And Trimark, which is also a regional entity that attends almost every one of our meetings anyway, we'd like to offer at least advisory membership to them besides cookies and drinks. So those are the proposals that were recommended by the working group. They were also taken to the TTCC, and TTC recommended that we bring them to the TPC and that you afford us the opportunity to make invitations. What would occur after that, then we would invite them to participate. If they decide not to, we won't include them. If they decide to, we're going to have to amend the bylaws of the TTCC, and we would bring that back to you after we get those responses with that amendment.
So Larry, you just need us to say go with
allow us to make invitation to this group of people in this regard, with the voting members and advisory members.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
It's up to you then. Any other business to come before this board? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, get up. We are adjourned.